Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to Season 3 of the Hormone P.U.Z.Z.L.E Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Kayla Smith, CEO of the Hormone P.U.Z.Z.L Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and pregnancy, an integrative, holistic nutritionist, doctor of natural medicine and training, creator of the Hormone P.U.Z.Z.L method, an infertility warrior, two-time boy mom, and women's health expert. This podcast is for women struggling with infertility, painful periods, terrible PMS, or really just any symptoms of hormone imbalance that they are ready to eliminate for good. Tune in weekly as we interview amazing experts in the field of women's health, breaking down those hormone walls, nerding out on nutrition, and having way too much fun. Whether you're beginning your journey or you've been struggling for years, we're going to finally help you put those pieces of your hormone puzzle back together so that you can get pregnant and eliminate those pesky symptoms for good. Not to mention, stay pregnant, have a healthy super baby, and easy postpartum. Are you ready? This season is packed with even more expert guests, sharing groundbreaking knowledge, giving you that jolt of energy that you so desperately need, sending you lots of virtual hugs, and inspiring you to take your fertility into your own hands and make that baby. Thank you all so much for tuning in and being amazing listeners. So now let's get started on your road to transformation. On today's show, we have Wendie Trubow, MD, MBA, who is passionate about helping women optimize their health and lives as a functional medicine gynecologist. Through her struggles with mold, metal toxicity, celiac disease, and other health issues, Dr. Wendie has developed a deep sense of compassion and expertise for what her patients are facing. She is the co-author of Dirty Girl, Ditch the Toxins, Look Great, and Feel Freaking Amazing. On today's show, we're talking all about toxins and how they relate to fertility and hormones, as well as gluten and dairy. Can you eat them? Can you not? What's the scoop there? All this and more on today's show. Now, let's welcome Dr. Wendie to our show. And a side note, stay till the end of this show because she has a really juicy gift for us, and you're going to learn all about her book, Dirty Girl. Now, on with the show. Hey, Dr. Wendie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kayla.
And thanks for being here. So let's dive into things. Tell us a little more about you and kind of how you got here, how you started working in women's health and around toxins.
All right. So that's it doesn't sound like a loaded question, but it is. So,
Right.
So I got into women's health because I was a third year resident and I had previously requested to opt out of surgery OB because I was never going to do a surgical or an obstetrical route for my life. I would never do that. And they said, no, that's not the way medical school works. So I put it at the end of the year and I was placed at a community hospital and I got into OB because I delivered a baby and I was like an addict. And I had already known I really enjoyed caring for women. And then I started to go, okay, OBGYN is really interesting. Gynecology is really interesting. Women's care is really interesting. Office care is interesting. There's so many things about OBGYN. But the minute I delivered a baby, all those cool things became null and void. And it was like, I need to do that. So I went into OBGYN, and that's of course women's care, and then discovered functional medicine. That's part 2. Which is I had celiac and it was undiagnosed for many years, like probably like 20 years.
Oh my goodness.
And didn't know that I had it. So by the time I got diagnosed, I was very ill and I really had head to toe issues. I had hair loss, brain fog, I had anxiety, and I'm high strung, but I'm not anxious. I'm just,
right.
It's just not my thing. But I had anxiety, I had heart palpitations, I had thyroid disorder, I had asthma, I had everything in the gut, bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, sometimes on the same day. It was just really bad. I had fertility challenges. I had wasting. So I was about 10 pounds thinner than I am now. I was really thin and everything hurt. And so I got diagnosed with celiac, and that was the moment where I went, oh, this is such a cool way of taking care of people. I could do that for women. And so I spent the next few years sort of getting my health in order and then transitioning to functional medicine because my husband's mentor is a functional medicine doctor, and he's the one who diagnosed me after, everybody missed it essentially. And then, so I spent about 14 years working on my health in functional medicine space, and then had another setback where I had, in the course of a year, I had 2 clear lead exposures. One of them I recognized, but was like, how bad could it be? Because my neighbor took his house down, and it was a post-war 1940s house, which has lead paint. And he took it down in the peak of summer, and our windows were open. And I was like, oh my God, there's dust everywhere. Shut the windows, shut off the air. So that was a pretty clear exposure, and my hair started falling out, but I was like, could that be it? And then I got another exposure because we visited France right after Notre Dame burned. And only in retrospect did we learn that it had actually released about 500 tons of lead into the air, and we were slogging through it. We were right in that area. And right when we came back that next month, I gained a whole bunch of weight. I got a rash on my face that was so painfully itchy, but painful. And then my hair started coming out in like clumps.
My goodness. I
was like, what's going on? And all the functional medicine straight up stuff didn't make a difference. I already knew I had mycotoxins, but it had all this had accelerated. So I was like, it's not the mycotoxins that I know I have, even though I'm working on those. And then I finally heard that report that the 500 tons of lead dust was released into the air. And I went, oh my God, I got a lead exposure. And that's when I did the testing and really saw, wow, those 2 exposures took me up by 25% over my previous baseline. And then I started treating because it was so bad.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Such an amazing story, and so amazing that you had the wherewithal to know, pinpoint that back to a lead exposure, because I feel like the average person would have gone to their doctor and been like, my hair's falling out, what's going on? And maybe been told like, oh, it's just age, or just, that's what happens when you start to go to menopause. And it's like, no, this is why this is happening. So I love that you put that together.
Yeah, amazing. It took a while. I mean, and I do this for a living, and it took me 3 months. As soon as I heard that I had gotten a lead exposure, I put it together, but I didn't think that off the top of my head. It's really hard to treat yourself. So I don't recommend it. I recommend everyone see someone.
Yes, but definitely.
I go to my partner, who's my husband, and he can't treat me either because it's too close.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, today we are talking about toxins and how they affect fertility. And I feel like now more than ever, this is getting to be more of a hot topic. But like when I was going through fertility 10 years ago, nobody was talking to me about my toxic exposure. My makeup might be causing these issues or any of that. So let's dive into that a little bit. How are these toxins affecting our fertility? I know that's a loaded question. So just like the very basics, and then we'll dive in deeper.
Yeah. So I think I would say there's 2 really important things to look at around fertility. One is, what are the things that are causing my body to experience a state of inflammation? So that can be anything from food sensitivities. Gluten and dairy are super common in terms of inflammatory foods, or it could be something like a toxic thought pattern that's causing inflammation because it's jacking up the adrenals and turning on the liver and shutting down the gut. So it can be that's creating this underlying platform or foundation of inflammation. And then that next cut of it is, there's a lot of beauty products that are endocrine disruptors. And so that's directly impairing fertility. So you kind of look at it from different approaches. And then the third cut of it, I would say, is lifestyle things are huge. I mentioned the toxic thought patterns, but if you don't prioritize sleep, if you over-exercise, if you if you're too stressed, essentially. And I know that really irks women to say, like, you just need to relax. And so I don't mean to be patronizing at all. It's more about, how do we incorporate self-care into your regimen? And so that even though it's all about getting pregnant, it's also not about getting pregnant. It's about getting healthy. Because the fertility issues are a barometer for what's going on in the body. So if you're having issues getting pregnant, that's your wake up call. You go, oh, there's something going on here. I need to figure it out. Is it the thyroid? Is it PCOS? Is there inflammation? Is it toxins? What's going on? Long answer, right? You were like,
right.
I just wanted 3 sentences.
No, that was perfect. I love that. And we've talked about this before, but I just find it so interesting about the toxic thoughts, because literally you can wire those neurons in your brain together to give you a physical symptom in your body. So it's like the more toxicity you have thoughts wise, not including the products, the more your body's going to show you symptoms, and fertility is one of those symptoms that it's going to throw infertility, if you will. So I love that you're saying that. And to go back to the gluten and dairy, I get this question a lot, and I know my thoughts and what I teach my clients, but I want to ask you, so if we are not showing any symptoms, if we are not coming up on a food sensitivity sensitive to gluten or dairy, should we still eliminate those two things?
So let's talk about gluten. Okay. And just to warn you, I hope everyone's sitting down because it's completely freaking horrifying.
Right.
It's horrifying. So, and I didn't know any of this before I got diagnosed. And I mean, who knows if it would have made a difference, but so everyone who eats gluten, when you eat gluten, well, let me back up a step. There are these things called tight junctions in your gut. That's what's lining your gut. Your gut is lined by a whole tennis court of cells that are stuck together, one cell thick. And I'm sort of holding my hands up. So if you're listening, essentially the cells are stuck together. They're called tight junctions. Think of them like being sewn up together. Now, when you eat gluten, anyone, if you do not have the genetic risk for celiac, and we can get into that in a minute, but if you don't have any genes for celiac, when you eat gluten, you open your tight junctions for 15 minutes. And it may not sound like a lot, but if you happen to, at that moment of in time, be exposed to other mycotoxins or other pesticides or metals or bacteria, those are now essentially having a full-on welcome mat into your bloodstream. And your bloodstream's like, whoa, what is this? So now when you take a step back and you go, okay, what's a typical diet? What'd you eat for breakfast? Bagel, cereal. Okay. What'd you have for lunch? A wrap. What'd you have for dinner? Chicken with broccoli and some pasta. So the whole meal, the whole day is often organized around giving harmful things an opportunity to get into our bodies. So if you don't have the gene for celiac, that's what happens. Okay. This is the part you want to sit down for. If you do have the gene for celiac, one or both, one's called DQ2, one's called DQ8. They're on this HLA subtype, and about 40% of the population has one or both mutations. Okay. And when you eat gluten, if you do have this mutation, you have more receptors that cause zonulin to go up. Zonulin dissolves the tight junctions, and now your tight junctions stay open for 4 hours. I know, it's horrifying. When I learned this, I wanted to barf. I was like, wait. So anytime someone who's genetically at risk for celiac, they don't have to have symptoms. They don't have to have celiac, because celiac's just the name we give for the end result of being autoimmune. So anyone who's like, I don't have a problem with gluten. I'm like, okay, but do you have the genes that put you at risk? Because if you have any problems, you're opening your body up to all kinds of inflammatory events, infections, challenges, pesticides, toxins. And then you're increasing the body's burden of what it needs to deal with. So the person who doesn't have the genes opened up their tight junctions for 45 minutes in a day. That same person, if they were genetically sensitive, opened up their tight junctions for 12 hours during the day.
Wow.
And what that means is essentially our insides are completely open to the outside world. So with gluten, it's really important to understand it's an intrinsically inflammatory food from that nature. Right? And then you layer on, most people aren't eating the wheat berries, they're eating bread or cake or cookie or candy. So then when you layer on the processed nature of it, that processed food is very inflammatory. And then you layer on, if it's in something sugary, the sugar is very inflammatory. And if you have any symptoms, then you have a problem. So
wow. And so how
is that, right?
Oh my gosh, crazy. I mean, we hear gluten's bad, and I talk about it in my practice all the time, but that takes it to another level. Like, it is bad.
Yeah. And I don't want to make it out to be like it's you're not a bad person if you eat it. Okay.
Right.
Because that's 100% how we're wired. Everyone's eating it. You don't want to be the odd person out. You don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to make a problem for my host. You don't want to be that person, right? It's more just that on top of all the other stuff we're exposed to, it now becomes a much bigger issue. because it's on top of, we eat more sugar now than we did in one day. We eat more sugar than we did in an entire year 200 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
Crazy.
Sugar in and of itself throws off the gut and throws off the balance and makes it inflammatory. It's just like, by the way, I'm the bad news bear, Kayla.
Right. So my husband always jokes that I need to get a shirt that says, "I promise I'm fun."
Right.
I'm always like, that's going to do this to you and that's going to do that to you.
Yes. So there's definitely hope. It's all fixable. And it's really important, if you're looking at fertility and you're having any challenges, food would be the first thing that I would say is, let's address your food first, because you do it every day. It's a low-hanging fruit in some ways.
Exactly. And so how would we know that we have these genetic markers? Is this something where we would need to test, or just assume because so much of the population has them that we do and then eliminate?
I don't know. I like data. I'd hate to assume and then be ticked off that you did something.
Right.
So I'm a huge data fan. I'm also a huge fan of doing things, I would say, outside the system, because we don't yet have great protections for people if they have genetic abnormalities. And so if you find out that you have that, but you also, so for example, if you do 23andMe, it'll tell you about your risk for celiac disease, but it'll also tell you your risk for breast cancer and Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And those we don't have very good protections for from a insurance standpoint. So I'm a huge fan of get your own data and then get a provider involved who can help you interpret it and maybe do more testing if indicated. But don't assume you have it unless, so for example, I have 2 genes for celiac. I'm a genetic overachiever. It's terrible. I don't recommend anyone do it.
Right.
And 2 for MTHFR and 2 for vitamin D deficient. Right. Like leave nothing
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
I said to them, you really shouldn't have reproduced.
Right.
But you really shouldn't have. I have 2 copies for the celiac gene, which means all of my kids got one. They don't need to test. I did test them just so I knew. Did they have DQ2 or DQ8? Because DQ2 is a little nastier. But you don't need to test if you know what your parents, if your parents have 2 copies of the same gene, you got one. So you don't have to test. For your children, you would want to test because there's a 50-50 chance your kids got it.
Gotcha. And so let's dive into dairy a little bit. Is it similar?
Yeah. It doesn't create the same, it's similar, but not from a genetic standpoint. It doesn't have that same genetic tweak that the gluten can have. But it's similarly inflammatory in the sense that, and particularly for people who have any kind of respiratory issue, so postnasal drip, asthma, seasonal allergies, anything like that, is someone I'm often saying, you really want to get rid of the dairy because it's messing up. It often just clogs up the sinuses and the respiratory system. So, but it doesn't have that same genetic reaction that the gluten has.
Gotcha. And so let's talk more about toxins. So how do we start to live toxic free, and what does that even mean?
Yeah, such a great question. So I think it's fair to start with toxin free would be the ideal, and low tox would probably be the realistic bent or way of behaving, because we're not going to live toxin free. If you live on this earth, there's no way. So don't try to be perfect, try to be better.
Right.
So you want to separate it into these, I think, 3 easy buckets. One bucket is, what are you putting in your body? That's your food and drink. And with food, if it's has pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, if it's not organic, if it's been sprayed with Roundup, those are foods that aren't in your favor. And then the next part of that is, I often get tripped up on this with patients because I forget to say, hey, are you drinking from single-use water bottles or plastic bottles in some way? Someone said to me, I love kombucha. I was like, what's not to love? Except it's full of sugar and it's in a plastic bottle. So there's some issues here. But the things you're putting in your body, those are endocrine disruptors. If you're drinking from single-use plastic bottles, and people say to me, I don't put hot water in them. I'm like, well, duh, of course you're not going to do that. Right. But you have no idea what happened before it got to you. You have no idea if that sat in a hot warehouse and released endocrine disruptors into the water that you're drinking. So if you can avoid it, avoid the single-use water bottles or any kind of single-use plastic. It's also really bad for the earth, which then cycles down into we're trying to reproduce and we want to make the earth good for our offspring. So, and those never decompose. So to avoid single-use water bottles, and those are the in you. And then there's the stuff you're putting on your body. So that's where we get into the beauty products, which have tons of endocrine disruptors. And when I say endocrine, I mean thyroid, adrenals, and the ovarian or testicular axis, depending on whether you're male or female. And so those can disrupt fertility directly. And that's also clothing. If we wear a lot of clothing derived from plastics, that gets into our system. If we wear clothing that hasn't been washed or it's been dry cleaned, that's getting chemicals into our system. And then the last is what's around us. What kind of furniture are we using? Is our bedding full of chemicals? Do we have a bed that has flame retardant sprayed on it? What's your neighbor doing? Is your neighbor spraying Roundup on their yard and it's drifting into yours? Does your spouse or your landscaper spray Roundup on your yard? So you have a nice, beautiful green yard that's toxic. So looking at all the things around you, air fresheners, the things you clean your house with, those are all opportunities to either get exposed to toxins or avoid toxins.
For sure. For sure. And I love that too about looking at your neighbors. The funniest thing, I had somebody on my podcast and she's like an environmentalist, like a toxins expert. And she was like, my neighbor always does their laundry and I'll have my windows open and my whole house will smell like laundry softener. And she was like, wait a minute. And because she's who she was, she knew to look for that and that's bad. But the average person wouldn't even think of that. They would just be like, oh, that smells good,
I mean, think about it. Toothpaste, fluoride in our water. There's so many ways that we're getting exposed to things. So it can make you nuts. Yes. So the first thing is don't let it make you nuts. Pick one thing, right? I always say pick your food because you're going to do it every day anyway.
Right.
So level up on your food. And I always give people a little form to fill out, or I ask them, are you someone who makes huge change all at once, or are you more incremental? Because the huge change all at once person is going to completely transform their way of eating overnight or in a weekend. And the incremental person is going to say, let's start with one meal. Pick one meal, level up, have a win, pick another meal, right? And then the next part of that is once we give you a plan, are you someone who's going to be able to drive this yourself? Or are you someone who needs your feet held to the fire, accountability? Like, I need accountability. I talk to my couch 3 times a week. Some weeks I'm like, I don't know that I need to do this, but I'm going to keep talking because I need that accountability. And other people, you give them a plan and 6 months later, they're like, yep, still doing it. I'm good. So you have to honor those, there's a bunch of different ways you can do lifestyle change. So you have to honor that because that's going to impact it. So it's really important to go slowly, but start with food 100%.
For sure. For sure. I love that. Well, we do have to take a short break to hear a word from our sponsors. We're going to come back. We're going to talk more practical tips. We're going to dive in more with food and lifestyles. We'll do all that and more when we come back. Hey y'all, it's Coach Kayla here. I hope you are loving this episode as much as I am. We will be back in just a minute, but first, a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Hormone P.U.Z.L.E Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching. Whether you're struggling to get pregnant with pesky hormone symptoms, or you're working to build a career in the fertility and women's health space, we have you covered. Visit our website at www.coachkayla.com to learn more on how we can help you. Text the keyword fertility to 615-257-8855 for your free fertility meal plan. Hey, Dr. Wendie, welcome back.
Thanks, Kayla.
All right, let's talk practical tips. Tell us maybe your top 5 things to start living toxic free.
All right. So it's really important that people focus on the foundations first. So you have to sleep. I mean, not sleeping is toxic. So you have to sleep enough. You have to move your body so that you can get the lymph flowing. So that moves toxins. You have to not be a toxic stress ball in your mind because that sets off a whole cascade. I recommend food. I think that's a huge part of the platform and foundation of how we get healthy and help the body, because your body really wants to be in balance.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it can't. It doesn't have what it needs. So giving the body enough micronutrients and protein and what it needs to really function properly will help detox huge. So let's call that grouping just one thing to do, right? And then I always think it's important to start with, when even more in food, to work on wherever possible organic, grass-fed, grass-finished. Focus on the quality of your food, because you think about it, you're putting that in your body. So it's kind of a badge of honor if it costs more. And sometimes you'll need to prioritize like what's most important, but I would say wherever possible, go for organic and not processed. That would be there. And then ditch those plastic water bottles. So now we're moving on to like, what are the actual tools where you can get rid of the toxins? Ditch the plastic water bottles, make it not negotiable. And if you have to do it, have it be, it's because you're in a bind, as opposed to, oh yeah, I keep this in my car, so when my kids get in, they're not thirsty, etc. So make your health not negotiable. And then the next part is the beauty products. Level them up. So it's super overwhelming. When I looked in my beauty, you open your medicine chest, you go, whoa, there's a lot of stuff in there. So pick the thing you're running out of. What are you running out of? Pick that. Go to Environmental Working Group, EWG.org. Pick that, look it up. Maybe you've hit the nail on the head and you're actually already there. Like I found I was using a bronzer that actually was fine and I didn't have to get rid of. So okay, maybe you're like, cool, I did a good job, pat myself on the back. But if not, you can search for what are alternatives to that. Okay. And as you're running out of something, look for an alternative that has the Environmental Working Group seal, because that's a clean product. Okay. So we've covered the foundation. We've covered the water bottles. We've covered the things you're putting on your body. And then the next meaningful thing would be to say, what's the water quality that you're drinking? Not from plastic water bottles, but are there any chemicals? Are there any toxins? Is there perchlorate in your water source? Because these are all not so good for you. So start to really drill into your water quality. And then lastly, I would say if you're in the market for new furniture or a bed, that's huge. Make sure that you're getting one that's not treated with flame retardants, because those are also endocrine disruptors and track back to thyroid and to fertility.
I love that. Yes, I love that. And starting small, I think it's a really good point. Sometimes it can be very overwhelming to think everything I use is toxic, but I love what you say. I say that something similar. As you run out of things, just switch it for something cleaner. That's a really good way to up level and to find a product that you like even more. And I find that too, that nowadays the products are so much better. Like 10 years ago, the non-toxic was like, this is crap, but now so good.
Yeah. And I think it's really important. Kayla, I'm a huge fan of better, not perfect, because so I would say I'm super type A, anal retentive, intense. And so my tendency is to be like, I have to be perfect. Okay. And that's the devil. That is really the devil. So it's not about being perfect. And when you screw it up, as you're going to, as I have repeatedly done, turn it into like, what can you laugh about? So here's what I'll share. My mom had this cleaning product when I was a kid, and I remember her being like, this is amazing. It's so clean. And I look up to my mom. So I took it on. This is awesome. And then, okay, I'm 51. And about 8 months ago, I went, oh my God, this is not awesome.
Right.
In fact, this is like super, super dirty, and I have been totally greenwashed. And I mean, we've published a book on toxins. I'm all about making everything clean. I completely got snookered. So you're going to get snookered by things and be like, this is not clean. So I woke up and I went, this product is not clean, and replaced everything, because that really woke me up, because I was like, well, we have the clean glass cleaner, but the floor cleaner was what I got tripped up on. And my poor cleaner in the office, I was like, you can't use that anymore. She's like, what? It's so great. I said, I know it cleans well, but you can't use that because we have patients who are trying to get rid of their toxins here.
Right.
So we did it at home and we did it in the office, and she was so mad at me.
Oh,
she said, okay, the stuff we replaced it with is actually working really well. We replaced it with Aspen Clean, which I love. I've gotten everything from them. They have laundry detergent, dishwasher pods, and cleaning products. But I was just, have a sense of humor about it. Like, you're going to screw it up and nobody's going to die. Just move on. Go, oh, oops. I did that with my laundry pods. I did it with this. I mean, you're going to screw it up.
Right. And they get so tricky with what it says on the front of the package. I remember I was recommending a lotion that was like, all natural, made from hemp seed oil and like essential oils. And then I look on the back and it was like yellow number 5. And I was like, what?
Right.
So why is this in here?
So that's why I love the EWG, because they really have done the research. And I mean, I don't know about you, Kayla. I do not have the bandwidth to do that research.
No.
So I'm relying on them, and they've been fantastic because they look into, well, what is this? Is this a cancer-causing agent? Is it an inflammatory agent? Is it an allergy? What's the problem with that? It also tells you why it's a problem, not just this is bad, but why. So you can make the choice. Like for me, I didn't have an allergy to something, so that didn't bother me that it wasn't perfect. So because something with like chamomile, tea tree, sometimes these are flagged as things that will irritate you, but it didn't irritate me. So I love EWG because it does the work, and you don't get greenwashed.
Right. I love that. And two, I find, and I'm sure you can relate, but I find certain brands that I love and that I can trust and that I know are clean brands. And so then I can be like, okay, they make lotion, body wash, and shampoo. I know they're safe. I can just grab all of that from them. So it makes it a lot easier when I do find those companies I can trust. But definitely learning about those companies from EWG is important. Yeah. And so helpful.
That's why I found that.
Yeah.
That's how I found the Aspen Clean. And that's been great. Because then I was like, oh, wait, they have laundry pods. Those little things.
Yes. Love some laundry pods. So easy. I love it. Well, I could talk about toxins all day with you, but we do have to wrap up. So tell us where we can find you. First, tell us about your book, Dirty Girl. What's it about? Where can we get it? All of that.
This is going to be shocking to your audience. It's about toxins.
Right.
So it came about because I have all these toxins. And then when I realized it, I said to my husband, I'm such a dirty girl. And then I was like, oh, that's the book we got to write. So it's Dirty Girl. Ditch the toxins, look great, and feel freaking amazing. And it's about all those ways that we're exposed to toxins, the consequences it can have, and then the ways we get rid of them. It's really a message of hope and action, the ways in which you can take action to get this out of your body. Okay. So how people can find us. The book is on Amazon under, don't type in Dirty Girl. You're not going to get the book.
Right.
You're going to get something else. Type in Dirty Girl book or Dirty Girl Detox, and that'll get you to the right place.
Yes.
And then we have actually a free gift for your listeners, Kayla.
Yay.
Because sometimes it's hard for people to know where to start and what are the good products. And EWG is a great source. And we then put it into a resource guide so that you can go, okay, I want to upgrade on my beauty. What should I do? So we put that on. We did that, a lot of hours of research on this one. So we put it in a guide, and you can go to our website at 5journeys.com /promo, PROMO, and 5 is spelled out. So it's FIVEJOURNEYS.com /promo. And you put your email in, you get the guide. So that's a free gift. We normally sell it, but we give it away to the podcast listeners. And then other ways to find me. I'm on Instagram, Wendie Trubow MD, and Facebook, Wendie Trubow MD. I'm also on Twitter, Wendie Trubow MD, and then LinkedIn.
I love it. And we'll put that link. Thank you so much for that free gift. I need to grab one of those myself. But we'll put that in the show notes. So it'll be really easy to find and really easy to get. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Kayla.
Yeah. And so before we close, I would love to hear maybe a words of inspiration, a final thought, something you want to leave us with.
Yeah, I would say don't take an excuse for an answer. You're going to go to your provider and they're going to say, you're just stressed, or I had a patient who lost all the hair on her body, and someone said to her, well, you've just got autoimmune alopecia. And she was like, but what caused it?
Right.
So don't take a Band-Aid for an answer. There's something causing your symptoms, and it's fixable. It's the thing that really gives me hope is it's all fixable, and a lot of it's reversible. You can, I actually just said to her, can you send me a picture? Because she's grown her hair back.
Yay.
She was sort of complaining. She's like, now I have to shave. I was like, okay, but like hashtag good problems, right?
Right. Yeah. I love it. Amazing. Well, it's always so fun to talk to you. Thank you for being here and for sharing your wisdom with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Kayla.
Yeah. And thank you ladies for listening to the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. Until next time. Bye. Hey, hang on just 1 second before you go. I want to make sure that you are aware of all of the amazing free resources that I have for you on my website at CoachKayla.com. From a fertility meal plan, a cycle syncing quick start guide, a holistic healing cookbook, as well as master classes, blog posts by me and some amazing experts in the fields of fertility, hormones, and nutrition. So many wonderful resources that will help you on your journey. And I wish there had been something like this when I was going through my 2 years of infertility, but there just wasn't. And so that's why I decided to create all of this for you. So make sure that you go and check it out and you take advantage of this plethora of support that I have provided for you. And spoiler alert, these were some of the same tricks and the same foods that I used to get myself pregnant, not once, but twice, even after my doctors said that I couldn't. So I know that these things work. So make sure you take advantage of that. And I cannot wait for you to be my next success story. So thanks, love. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in today to the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. Check out the show notes for today's episode at CoachKayla.com. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave a review. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week.